Hi and welcome to another episode of the Hollywood Arcade. I'm Steven, and for today's video we're going to be going over the release of Wonder Woman 1984, Cyberpunk 2077, more news and of course drama, as well as the Season 2 finale of The Mandalorian and all the new shows Disney Plus has announced for the Star Wars universe, and what I and many fans believe are clues to the future of the franchise. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the video, and let's get going. Starting with Wonder Woman 1984, Gal Gadot reprises her role in the film, which takes place 66 years after the events of the original, where her character, Wonder Woman, aka Diana Prince, has to tend with the return of her former lover, Captain Steve Trevor, played by Chris Pine, as well as deal with the villainous ambitions of Maxwell Lord, played by Din Djarin actor, Mandalorian of course, Pedro Pascal, as well as deal with her new rival in Barbara Minerva, aka Cheetah, played by Kristen Wiig. I believe all the actors did a really good job portraying their roles. I didn't have a problem with any of the acting per se. I didn't even have a problem with the director's choice to camp it up in true 80s fashion. All of that makes sense. What doesn't make sense is the lack of rules set for Wonder Woman. In one of the scenes, we see her swinging through the banisters of a mall in one of the opening scenes without any actual laws of physics coming into play. We see her catch a bullet mid-flight with her lasso, and we also see her literally ride the lightning with her lasso. All of these things would be fine if there was a precedent set for it. Unfortunately, there is no precedent set for it. Wonder Woman is floating over untold distances without ever actually falling while riding the lightning, but it just doesn't seem like she's doing anything that normally would happen. Normally she would fall, but she doesn't fall. So can she fly or can't she? Then we see her show up in a suit of armor that she hadn't been wearing just moments before. So how did she get in that suit of armor? The filmmaker never chose to show us these things. Take Iron Man, for example. Iron Man obviously has technology which we do not have in this world. So we suspend disbelief and just say, hey, he invented this, it's amazing. But when he flies through the sky, he still obeys the laws of physics. There is wind resistance. If he loses power, he falls down. None of these things apparently are factors for the Wonder Woman character, but there's no precedent for it. If she can fly, fine, but she can't fly, but she also doesn't fall. So it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And frankly, there were too many oh please moments for me in this movie to give anybody my recommendation. Cyberpunk 2077 creators CD Projekt Red have seen more criticism come their way, as due to the faulty nature of their game's release, this company's stock has dropped by 29%, as well as having the possibility of a class action lawsuit levied against them under the pretense that they have misled the shareholders. In spite of all of this, the game has still sold more than 13 million copies, and that includes returns, which caused one gaming journalist from Paste magazine to say, Cyberpunk 2077 is Game of the Year in the same way that Hitler was Time magazine's Man of the Year. Ouch. Next section is going to contain spoilers for the Season 2 finale of The Mandalorian, so if you have not seen it, please stop now, go and watch it, and be sure you watch to the end credits because it is the only end credit scene in the series thus far. The Season 2 finale of The Mandalorian had a long-hoped and long-overdue return of fan favorite Luke Skywalker. Now, Disney held their Investors Day meeting on December 10th, where they announced 10 new shows and or movies coming out to Disney Plus. And once you look at them, you realize that all 10 of them, 11 including the Book of Boba Fett, which was also announced in Mandalorian, none of them take place during the sequel trilogy era, which has a lot of fans wondering, has Star Wars and Lucasfilm done away with the sequel trilogy? Now, one thing that I will say is that the sequel trilogy had a good movie, two good movies, I suppose, depending on which point of view you look at it from, in The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. Standalone. I don't say that they are good movies as they would be if it was a proper trilogy. The Force Awakens was a good start for the sequel trilogy. It had a lot of really great questions, a lot of fun moments, even if it did follow a particular familiar pattern. That's just screenplay format. That's just how that goes. But we had the return of, Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Han Solo, Chewbacca, you name it, the Millennium Falcon. All that was fun. In addition, you got to see and ask, who is Snoke? Where did he come from? Where did the First Order come from? How did they rise to power? What happened to the New Galactic Republic? Who are Rey's parents? So on and so forth. All of these were really fun and really interesting questions that could have been answered by the remaining two films. However, Kathleen Kennedy gave the reins and creative control over to Rian Johnson, and he decided to subvert audience expectations and fans' expectations and toss all of those fun new questions that J.J. Abrams had raised out of the window, or over the shoulder, as it were. And then, of course, it was given back to J.J. Abrams, where he backpedaled on everything that Rian Johnson had backpedaled on. And so we have a really disjointed and uncohesive story in the sequel trilogy, which doesn't really tell much of a story at all. And it left a lot of people really disappointed, as well as underperforming at the box office. And so it makes me wonder, has Kathleen Kennedy and Star Wars, or Bob Iger, or all of them, decided to give up on the sequel trilogy? Well, that brings us to the latest theory in the future of the Star Wars franchise, where a YouTuber named Doomcock has correctly before predicted, or at least leaked, the script or the plot for The Rise of Skywalker, which gives us a little bit of credence. But he basically says that the plan would be to use something called the Veil of the Force, which was introduced into Dave Filoni's Star Wars Rebels animated series, which basically gives somebody used to a dimension of the Force, which allows for time travel. There is a little bit of a possible clue that this would be used in The Last Jedi, where we got to see Sawtooth Rey show up in a room of mirrors on the wreck of the second Death Star. Now, apparently this was a room that Emperor Palpatine had on the Death Star, which allowed him to have access to the Veil of the Force. He called it the Room of Mirrors. And apparently it's how he escaped from the Death Star reactor shaft in Return of the Jedi, when Darth Vader finally fulfilled the prophecy, we all thought, and how he eventually came back. So the plan would be for somebody to use the Veil of the Force to go back and snuff out Palpatine as he tries to escape his impending death in the reactor shaft in the second Death Star. And that somebody, I think, is going to be AHSOKA. If you take a look here at their title card, the back graphic for the show, as well as maybe the O in her name, has a close resemblance to the Veil of the Force depicted in the Star Wars Rebels episode. I say I'm all for this. I think that the sequel trilogy got my hopes up in episode 7 and then crashed it down in episode 8, and then, added insult to injury with episode 9. I think that was just the worst thing that's come to Star Wars since the holiday special, and we could do a lot better. Just look at Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. The Mandalorian and Rogue One, also, I will mention, is everything that Star Wars is supposed to be. If they can do it for a TV series with the limited budget in comparison to a full, motion picture budget, then they can do it for the movies. Somebody needs to get out of the way and let those guys have control. And if it's Kathleen Kennedy, get the hell out of the way. You don't know what you're doing. Well, that's going to do it for me here at the Hollywood Arcade. I hope you enjoyed the video. Tell me your thoughts on all of these subjects. Cyberpunk 2077, Wonder Woman 1984, Star Wars, whether you think I'm stupid or whether you think I'm right, doesn't matter. Let me know down in the comments below. I will respond. Let's get into it. All right, please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next video. Bye-bye.